Star Trek Online has announced part 3 of this year's event campaign, and if you like Iconian stuff, this one's got some pretty neat rewards. Part 3 is going to revolve around Iconian TFOs, which you can clearly see by this picture. The 3 TFOs that you'll be taking part in for this event are Herald Sphere, Gateway to Grethor, and Brotherhood of the Sword. Those first 2 are pretty easy. Brotherhood of the Sword, well, actually, it's not hard because it's an event TFO. It'll only be on easy mode, so you won't have to worry about the secondary objectives. But yeah, this one's constantly being failed on Elite because the secondaries are very easy to just bypass entirely, and if you bypass them on Elite, you fail because secondaries are not optional on Elite. Sorry, this is another rant altogether. But yeah, these are the 3 TFOs that you'll be doing. The event will be running from May 2nd, which that's my birthday, May 2nd to May 23rd on PC. Console, you guys will be getting this at a later date. If you're still up in the air on what you want to pick for this year's event campaign, because remember, for this year's event campaign, you get all 3 options as a choice. So you get to pick up your choice of 1 premium ship, the 2 C-Store coupons, and the 1500 low buy. You get all 3 of those. So if you're debating on what to pick up with all of those, I do have videos for all of those. So I do have my top 10 premium ships to pick for the event campaign, my top 10 C-Store ships video, and I have like 3 different videos on good stuff in the low buy store. So be sure to check those out if you are still up there on what to pick. Now, the rewards for this one, like I said, are kind of interesting. For one, we're getting more than 1 reward. The first one is going to be the Herald Defiler Mace. It is a melee weapon that is based off of the mace weapon that the Herald Defiler NPCs can use. And yeah, I mean, look at this thing. This is ridiculous. I already love it. This massive energy-infused weapon has been wielded by Herald Defilers. The weight and power of the weapon requires using it with 2 hands. Melee critical hits with this weapon deal additional anti-proton damage with each hit and have a chance of pulling other nearby foes closer to you. This is there is a brief cooldown on this effect. Interesting idea, because pull effects on melee weapons are definitely a good idea, because you want enemies close to you, because wielding a melee weapon, you have a very limited range. So if you can pull enemies closer to you, all the better, because that means you're gonna be able to hit them more effectively. The extra anti-proton damage on critical hits, I mean, I'm sure that's not going to be a huge damage increase, because I mean, if it's critical hits are pretty easy to get these days with the power creep from Endeavors. I mean, assuming you've been leveling your Endeavors, but I imagine it's not going to be a lot of anti-proton damage, but there are going to be ways to boost that anti-proton damage, like just using what was it, Tanovic's console. I think that's the personal trait that increases your anti-proton damage, so you can mix that in with like a couple other anti-proton damage stuff, like the Bowel Obelisks, stuff like that. That would be a good combo. But yeah, I don't know, we didn't get much more information beyond this, but I mean, it's a melee weapon. It's not going to break the meta in any sense of the word, because melee builds are they're a gimmick, because melee builds, melee combat in general in Star Trek Online has always been kind of janky, but I still find it very amusing. I do have 1 melee build video on the channel. It's my Klingon Warrior, ground build. So if you're wanting ideas for a build on this to make this mace like more effective, go check that out. You might find that helpful, because I mean, melee builds, they're very niche and they're not something I see a lot of people do, but they are, like I said, they're not the most amazing thing in the game, but you can get through most content in the game with it, and they're amusing, and I do enjoy them. And this is going to be a fun toy to add to that arsenal, because this thing looks ridiculous. Now, like I said, we're getting more than 1 reward with this TFO event, because they're also throwing in some space weapons. Specifically, we're getting omnidirectional Herald anti-proton beam arrays and wide arc Herald anti-proton dual heavy cannons. Now, for the description here, they literally just like copied part of the tooltip, which literally just like most of this is just like, what is an omni beam? How do beam weapons work? And the same with the dual heavy cannon. How do energy weapons work? Which doesn't really tell you much about the weapon specifically. But here you can see the proc right here. Herald anti-proton weapons have a chance to give bonus damage for a short duration, and then you can see it again down here for the wide dual heavy cannon thing. So they're standard Herald anti-proton weapons like you would get out of a lockbox. It's just these weapons are so old at this point, they predate Omni beams and wide dual heavy cannons, which is why those weren't available in the lockboxes. So now, not only were we finally getting those, but they're being given out as event rewards. So you'll be able to reclaim them on your whole account, which is really nice, because typically anti-proton, or not anti-proton, typically omnidirectional beams and wide arc dual heavy cannons are very expensive on the exchange, because they have a much lower drop rate than most of the other types of weapons, because Cryptic for some reason thinks that these are super elite type weapons when really they're very not. That's another rant that I will get into in a little bit, because I do want to talk about this. But yeah, so being able to get these unlocked on your whole account, if you like anti-proton builds, that's going to be a nice convenience. The proc is okay. I don't know that much about it. I've never actually played around with the Herald anti-proton stuff, largely because we've never had an Omni Beam for them, but now we do have an Omni Beam for them, so yay. I might do something with these, because I do like the look of these. This like dark purple look to them. It's, I don't know, it amuses me, and I like it. I don't know if I'd use it on a Starfleet ship. That said, I do love that they used a California class for the preview image. Hashtag save lower decks. Anyway, moving on to the rest of this. Yeah, the rest of it is just normal stuff that you usually see on any sort of events. So, you know, once you complete the event, you'll still get the bonus rewards stuff. So you complete the event, and then you keep playing the event, and you'll get bonus dilithium and stuff like that. You can also buy it out with Zen, and this contributes to the event campaign. So every time you complete the event once per day, you also earn 50 progress toward your event campaign. And don't forget, you can speed up progress on your event campaign by buying out the event. So the way to do it is you buy out the event like right away, and then you keep playing it every day that it's active. So when you buy it out, the progress for each day of those segments of progress, those will be applied to your event campaign progress. So you can immediately get like 20 days worth of progress just by buying it out on the first day. You don't want to play the event first, because then that'll trigger in the scaling pricing stuff. So then that'll drop to 19 days of progress if you buy it out. So it'll be less, and you know, more and more you scale through it. So yeah, if you're wanting to get a jump start on your event campaign progress, buy out the event right away and then keep playing it. This is a thing I used to do a lot in the early days of the event campaign. I'm more patient now, I guess, or maybe I'm just, you know, more stingy with money. It's one or the other, but yeah, it's a good way if you're really hankering to get your hands on a certain like premium ship or something like that. Buying out the event is a good way to speed up that process without having to spend, you know, $150 on the ship itself. Yeah, because the buyout is like $25. It used to be 20, but now it's 25. And you know, Cryptic never said anything about that, and they thought we wouldn't notice, but we noticed. Anyway, before I wrap up, a little bit of a rant about the Omni Beam and the wide arc dual heavy cannon thing, because I made a comment about this in the announcement on Twitter, and it's not really about these weapons themselves, but more about just it's more about Omni Beams and wide arc cannons in general, and that's that I really wish Cryptic would stop treating these like these are equal to each other, or that they're meant to be like some sort of super rare thing, because the restrictions on Omni Beams in particular is ridiculous, because Omni Beams are essential for doing forward-facing beam builds, you know, with dual beam banks. So the restrictions on those weapons currently, because currently you can only have up to 2 Omni Beams, 3 if you count the cutting beam, but that's not a real energy weapon, so I don't count it, which you shouldn't either, because it's a very unique weapon. It has a unique case. But yeah, Omni Beams, you can only have 2 of them, 1 from a set and 1 not from a set. As those have always been the restrictions on them, and it's always been really annoying for forward-facing beam builds, because their excuse has always been that they don't want you to be able to put a bunch of them on a ship and then just have all Omni Beams and be able to just lazily fly your ship around and, you know, not have to worry about firing arcs, which I think is a really stupid argument, because we can already do that with turrets. I know this because I've done it several times. There are many build videos on this channel featuring turret builds. And I'm not saying I want to do an all omnidirectional beam build, because, I mean, it would be funny, but at the same time, beam arrays already have very wide arcs. It would be kind of unnecessary to have an all omni beam build. But for the sake of forward-facing builds, there needs to be, we need to have the ability to equip more of them, because with only 2 Omni beams in the back, with on ships that have up to 3 to 5 or 3 to 4 aft weapons, it presents a problem for those beam builds, and really it's really a shortcoming for them when you compare them to cannon builds, because turrets don't have any restrictions at all. You can put as many turrets on a build as you have weapon slots. So the fact that Omni beams are treated special, but turrets aren't, it's never made sense, and I really wish Cryptic would finally address this in a way that, you know, I don't know. It's they've given their reasoning, but the reasoning has never made sense to me, and it's always bugged me, and it feels it. I really hate to say this, but it feels like it's less about them wanting it's less about them thinking that it would like unbalance the game, and it's more about the fact that it would probably just be a ton of work for them to change the Omnis like that, and then they have to come up with some sort of like replacement for what would be like the beam equivalent of the White Arc dual heavy cannons, which honestly, that's an easy one right there, because we already have wide heavy dual beam banks in the game. Currently there are only 2 of them. They're unique weapons from the Discovery reputation, but they could have made more of those, and those could have been the counterpart to the wide dual heavy cannons. Wide dual heavy cannons and wide dual beam banks. It's never been that balanced to begin with, because beams and cannons have always had their own differences, and I get the reasoning for not wanting to make them like exact copies of each other, but at the same time, it's just, I don't know, I'm tired of beams constantly being held back for this stupid arbitrary crap. Anyway, rant over. I'm sure this won't change anything, but anyway, yeah, that's the event. Again, it's going to be Herald Sphere, Gateway to Greathor, and Brotherhood of the Sword, running from May 2nd to May 23rd, and you get this funny Iconian mace, which will be amusing, but it's not going to be any sort of meta breaking. And then you also get the Herald Anti-Proton Omnidirectional Beam and Wide Arc anti-proton dual heavy cannon, which will be nice if you like those Herald weapons, because now you get a free Omni Beam and dual heavy cannon, wide dual heavy cannon unlockable on your whole account, which will be nice to have. So yeah, that is going to be part 3 of this year's event campaign. Let me know what you think down below. What do you think of this year's prize, or if you have opinions on my rant about Omni Beams and dual heavy cannons, because I know that's always been a hotly debated issue ever since forever at this point. While you're down there, be sure to like and subscribe and hit that bell for notifications. Do the other usual outdoor stuff, the merch stores down there. Be sure to use my affiliate codes for the Epic Game Store or for Real Merch if you're ever shopping in either of those places. But either way, thank you so much for watching. My name's Stu, and I will see you guys next time.